In this episode, we interview Alex and Christian at Christmas Tree Santas, an organization on a mission to spread hope and joy by giving Christmas trees to families in need. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of Greater Than 0%. Today we have two guests. We don't often have multiple members of an organization join us, so we're really excited to have Alex, who's the founder, and Christian, who's a community and event leader for Maryland of Christmas Tree Santas. Alex and Christian, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, my joy.
Absolutely, Joseph. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So we start with the mission statement. So Alex, I'd love to hear the mission of Christmas Tree Santas and what y'all are about.
Yeah, it's a fairly simple one, and it's almost captured in the name. We give away Christmas trees to deserving, needy families, and the mission of the organization is just that: to spread hope and joy annually and during the holiday season by helping our neighbors in need and giving them a free Christmas tree.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it is pretty straightforward, but I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to uncover and share with the world. So, but before we get into the organization, though, I'd like to hear the why behind our founders and our members of organization. So we can start with you, Alex, and then move to you, Christian. Is why? What was the origin story? What prompted this?
Yeah, I tell people about 12 years ago, I was cleaning out my basement. And I had an old artificial tree, and I was just trying to get rid of it. It was trash to me. So I put it online. I put it on a Craigslist type of site just to get the first person who wanted it to come take it away. And a couple of things happened. One is I got about a dozen emails very quickly, and a lot of them told very heartfelt stories from people who wanted a Christmas tree for the holiday season. And I was a little taken aback by that. So I chose a woman who was very close to me. I didn't know her, and she came to pick up the tree with her two young boys. And they were in a pickup truck, and the boys were quite excited to be getting a Christmas tree. They were jumping up and down in my driveway. And the mom was very emotional. And again, that was surprising to me. And we talked for a bit, and I realized that she was just not a person locally who was going to help me do some recycling. She was a struggling parent who wanted but couldn't afford a Christmas tree. And a light bulb went off. I had never thought about that. I had never thought about that unique need set. And it just occurred to me that, of course, there are probably hundreds of moms in my community and dads and people who want but can't afford something as simple as a Christmas tree. So I thought about that. Their faces and our interaction just stuck with me for a long, long time. And I told a couple of my business partners about this. And I said, I know this sounds really crazy, but I think we ought to buy a bunch of Christmas trees.
Yeah.
And they said, no, that doesn't sound crazy. That sounds like a lot of fun. So let's figure it out. And so that first season, we set into motion a nonprofit organization. We organized, we figured out how to get Christmas trees. We figured out a model to work with nonprofits to identify families who needed or wanted Christmas trees, but perhaps couldn't afford them. And our first year in operation in two sites, one in Massachusetts and one around Atlanta, Georgia, we gave away about 300 Christmas trees.
Wow. Just that first year?
Yeah, year one. And then we've grown organically ever since then. A lot of times someone might just find us on the internet and have this same idea and reach out to us. And fast forward to last year, and we were in 8 or 9 states with 18 or 19 volunteer leaders like Christian working in Maryland in his case. And we gave out 2,200 Christmas trees. So it's grown over time. This year we'll give away our 20,000th Christmas tree nationwide. But again, the purpose has we've stayed true to that. It's a very simple concept. And each season we just gather together as all volunteers and try to identify someone who may need a little holiday cheer and give them a Christmas tree. And we define need as not necessarily even a financial need. Maybe you're just depressed over the holiday season. Maybe you've lost a loved one. Maybe you've had illness in your family. People come to us, for all different sorts of reasons. But to give them a tree, and in often cases, their first live Christmas tree in many cases. Just brings great joy and fills us up as members of their community and as their neighbors. It's a great act of giving, and we love it.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Alex. It's amazing how fast things have grown since the inception. So, Christian, how about you? What was your initial engagement? How did you come across Christmas Tree Santas?
Yeah, so this was the summer of 2017. I was living in New York City at the time. My wife and I were dating at the time, and we're both from the DC metro area, so greater DC metro area, Virginia, Maryland. I grew up in a town in Maryland called Gaithersburg, and big family here locally, always really special time around the holidays, getting together with extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles. I've got two younger brothers. So the holiday season was always one for me that I look forward to. I'm a huge Christmas nut. I could listen to Christmas music year round. So I'm one of those annoying people.
I'm right there.
Yeah. So I just love the holiday season. I love everything it stands for, season of giving, and everything that it represented for me growing up. And I was very fortunate to grow up in a warm home with two loving parents who always set a tradition of us as a family of five going to cut down a real Christmas tree. And no matter what was happening that year, no matter what our family's economic conditions were, that's something that my two brothers and I knew we were going to do. And not that I ever really took it for granted, but I'm not sure that I ever thought about the costs associated with buying a Christmas tree, the ornaments that you accumulate, the lights, like everything associated with it. Now more than ever, there's a pretty significant expense associated with that activity. And I was thinking with my brothers, with my wife, how we could kind of give back during the holiday season. And since I was living away from home, not too far in New York, but wanted to kind of have something that was a tie back home to do during the holidays. And I've always loved, like I said, not just Christmas, but the smell of a real Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I have a little sachet pillow from LL Bean that has the pine scent from the LL Bean headquarters in Maine that I have in our bedroom that I smell all the time. So Again, you see how nutty I am. So I said, why don't we try to source some Christmas trees and give them away to folks here locally? And that kind of set everything in motion, where we started kind of on a grassroots level in the state, where I was working with local farms in Maryland and Pennsylvania to source the trees. I connected with Shepherd Pratt, which is a local organization and nonprofit that we support in our efforts, which we can get to, I'm sure, in a bit. But through all of my market research, came across Christmas Tree Santas and Alex. And so I said, this guy already started this amazing organization that shares exactly the same mission of what we would like to accomplish and achieve. So I sent him a cold email. Thankfully, he replied. And again, this was 6 years ago. So the rest is history. That was our first year in operation in Maryland and in Gaithersburg, in our hometown. That first year we gave away, I believe it was 70 trees. Since then, we've just gave away our 900th tree this past Christmas season. So we've kind of grown in that same trajectory with the organization, which has been a lot of fun. But that's honestly just how it started, was my love and passion for the holiday season. And also just feeling tremendous responsibility to help spread that hope and joy locally, because every family deserves that tradition. And while we can't serve every single family that wants a Christmas tree in our hometown, we can sure do our best to reach all those families as much as we can in other ways. So yeah, it's been a real privilege and honor.
Wow. How have y'all been able to scale this to multiple states? Has it been, Alex, a similar story to Christian, where people have come across Christmas Tree Santas and say, like, this is amazing, I want to lead this for Chicago, Philadelphia, or wherever they're living and headquartered? Has that been kind of the organic growth model, or
Yeah,
have you seen
I think it happens in a couple of ways. One is certainly, connections with, in candor, just total strangers like Christian or a couple of other folks have reached out to us over the years. When we connect and I kind of vet and assess their passion and their seriousness for it, and just their ability to handle what is a very large logistical activity around the holiday season. And then other times it's friends and family who live in different locations and who know what we do and want to be a part of that. So it takes that committed local resource to pull it all together and help us get launched in a new site. And then logistically, we've had the good fortune for about 7 years now of working directly with the Home Depot Corporation to help us source and and do all of the logistics around Christmas trees and Christmas tree delivery and getting the best deals, if you will, on wholesale pricing and some donations for trees. So it's been fits and starts over the year, but we've got a playbook now and a process where if we have a committed local volunteer and we can get the trees, that we can generally start a new site in a new location.
Yeah. What's the process like if you do have a committed volunteer at a new site for them? Like the logistical aspect of it sounds very complicated, but the playbook, it seems, has simplified it a little bit. So do they just need connections with the local community organizations that maybe have people that they know would be asking for this? Or what are some of the kind of expectations and requirements?
I'll describe it from my perspective, and then I'd love to hear Christian and how he thinks about it. So from our side, again, it takes a committed volunteer that we feel can organize this on our behalf. It certainly takes someone who has some sort of connectivity or thought process into identifying local families in their community. How am I going to find 50, 100 people to give Christmas trees away to? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes it's, as Christian has done, partnering with a single social service agency or nonprofit or school that has a large client base that has this need. We work with some Head Start schools in a couple of different parts of the country. We work with a lot of social service driven nonprofits, all of whom can advertise to their client base, this is a new offering that we have, or this is something, a gift or something we'd like to give you. And then it's working out the delivery mechanism, which is hard. You're talking about these massive live Christmas trees, and if I'm going to send you 100 or 200 of these, you have to think in advance where they're going to be stored. How are we going to distribute them? How are we going to help people get them on top of their cars? All of the kind of day of giveaway logistics are quite complicated. But we, with a committed volunteer and some support, we can certainly work through them. But I'd love to hear perspective. I hope I captured it, but I'm sure I'm missing a lot.
No, you captured it very well. It's great because Alex has sort of at the enterprise level for the organization things in place in a very smooth fashion. So it makes it easy for the local volunteers and event leaders to organize it. Like Alex said, it's more so coordinating the logistics once you get to about a month out from the event. We typically have our event in Maryland the first Friday in December. So basically once October hits, we start really serious planning and getting the date on the calendar. And so it's not only the tree delivery, but every family receives ornaments, lights, and a tree stand. So they get the full thing with the tree. Wow. The full package with the tree, I should say. So, which is fantastic. You don't just want to give a family the tree and they have to figure out the rest. And again, these are expensive, non-essential items. So I think it's great that Alex was able to foster a lot of wonderful partnerships that we have and sponsorships that we have at sort of the enterprise level. So locally, to Alex's point, I wanted to identify the right organization that had the proper infrastructure in place to identify the families that we would be serving, to know that A, they are deserving families indeed, and B, that they were interested in us providing this event and support, and ultimately they would have to have some sort of level of commitment to this event too. So I reached out initially in 2017 to Shepherd Pratt, which is actually the largest private nonprofit provider of mental health services and social services, special education, developmental disability services in the state of Maryland. So Shepherd Pratt has a tremendous presence across the entire state, but they have a local office in Gaithersburg. So I reached out to one of the directors of the office at the time, who's now grown into a larger leadership position within the organization. And she, along with her entire staff, have just been tremendous partners for us. So they have various programs that they run locally in and around the city of Gaithersburg and across the county, which is Montgomery County in Maryland. So some of these programs, for example, one of which is Early Head Start, which is a child development program that offers services to low-income families with young, small children all the way from birth to age 3. They also have a nationally accredited home visiting service where they provide various services for first-time parents who are experiencing multiple life stressors. So they actually go into the family's home, provide basic parenting skills, medical resources, local community engagement, things of that nature. So when I saw that they, of course, had this tremendous infrastructure in place and the right families that they're serving, it was perfect. Thankfully, the director expressed interest right away, and we've been working with them ever since. And so we have a giveaway event, as I mentioned, every December, the first Friday in December, where families come and pick up their Christmas tree and the decorations, etc. But they also get a hot meal. Santa Claus is on site for photo ops. Music's blasting, of course. I wouldn't have the event without Christmas music going the whole time.
That's a requirement.
Hot chocolate, the whole 9 yards. So we're lucky that we're able to have an event of that scale. And again, my thinking with trying to offer sort of an event and a holiday season kickoff was that families who aren't receiving a tree can still come and have a little bit of their own tradition, something that, like I said, I've always had the privilege and good fortune as a child to have, that try to provide that for other families too, again, even if they aren't receiving a tree that day. So it's grown tremendously. We have a couple hundred people that come out each year to the event. Excuse me. We've been giving 175 trees away for the past few years at each event. So I think we're going to try to grow it in the coming years, but always subject to availability, from our sponsors. But I think that we're able to serve a wonderful contingent of families from these various programs that Shepherd Pratt leads. And so that's kind of how it ends up working logistically once you partner with the local organization that you identify. I work with Alex on the logistical piece of the deliveries and the supplies, and then make sure that we're sharing all the wonderful photos from the event, and that Shepherd Pratt is satisfied with everything we've done. We run feedback loops every year to make sure that they're happy with the service that we're providing. So it's been a blast.
Wow.
Yeah. Just to pick up on that point, Christian, the local volunteers like Christian are critical, but then to have this nonprofit or group of nonprofit partners that not only will accept this gift, but engage in the process and add to that and make it, more than you even considered or thought, has been something we've seen at a whole host of different locations. Christians has really turned into like a holiday fair, basically. And we have that at other sites as well. We work with some Head Start schools, and they're like, oh, we can give away toys and visits with Santa this day. Or, in some cases, or we'll serve a hot meal.
Yep.
So it's expanded, and everybody adds their own special sauce, if you will. We have a partner, a first-year partner that we worked with in Maine this year, a food bank, and they have a drive-through food distribution that they do for their families.
Wow.
And so I explained our process and how we do it. They said, no, 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 we don't. We're gonna hold our normal food distribution, and then we'll just have the trees there, and anybody who wants to leave with a tree can get one. I'm like,
Wow.
I don't know if that's going to work because you have to you have to prepare them, and you have to kind of like, no, no, we want this to be a total surprise, and they're just going to come for their food basket, and if they want to leave with a tree,
Wow.
then we'll give them a tree. And so that's what they did, and it was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like a box of bread and some milk and essentials, and then someone walks over to them with a tree and says, "Do you have a Christmas tree this year?" And they're like, "No." And so
It's
they're like,
amazing.
"Pull over here and we'll tie it to your car." And they
Yeah.
gave away 60 trees as a total surprise
Wow.
to their regular clients. And so one, it proves that I don't know anything. Uh, but B, two, it proves there's just a lot of different ways to do this, and it really relies on the pluck and creativity of all of our different partners and all of our different volunteers to make this special in their own way in their own community for their neighbors.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this is amazing. So y'all have grown exponentially year over year. Is that the trajectory? That's kind of the future plan, is to keep getting people to take on their local communities and just grow that partnership with Home Depot and the other partners that provide the trees as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the rate limiting factor is that it is all volunteers who are, like Christian and myself working full-time jobs, and so we don't have visions of the massive scale and growth that would require us to have full-time staff and
Yes.
lots of
Yes.
other infrastructure. But we're always open to new partnerships and adding one or two new sites a year as we're able to support them for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, we have, like I mentioned before we pressed record, we've probably interviewed 100 plus nonprofits globally. Probably half of those, maybe a little under half, are based in the Chicago area, since that's near where we're headquartered.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there'll be. Have you guys ever worked with Chicago specifically, or and what are some of the main cities and areas that you're currently serving?
We haven't been to Chicago. You've got a great Christmas tree tradition in Chicago. I think and I'm gonna not get the name correct, but there's a Coast Guard cutter that brings free Christmas trees across the lake in
Ah,
Chicago every year, with this very same purpose, just to bring a bunch of Christmas trees and hand them out in your city. Um, we have done this in Philadelphia, in several communities in New Jersey. I've been to a couple of our events in Newark, New Jersey, which are just unbelievable. We've done this in Charlotte, North Carolina for 10 or 11 years now, several sites in Atlanta and in Georgia, our Maryland site. We've gone to Detroit for a couple of years with a sponsor. There was a professional football player with the New England Patriots who did an event with us for a couple of years in Boston. He has since been traded to the Los Angeles Chargers. Uh, but just a variety of folks we have a core group of cities and towns, and we have big partners in Texas who've done worked with us for many years in Houston. And then some people will come and go and work with us for 4 or 5 years and then maybe grow out of it
yeah,
or not be able to continue with it. But a lot of different cities, and as Christian said at the outset, it's a universal need. You can't go anywhere in America where there are not people who are in need and struggling and maybe at around the holiday season want but can't afford a Christmas tree.
yeah. Wow. So people that are listening that want to get engaged, what type of engagement do you look for? Whether it's people giving their time, talent, treasure, testimony, and how can they get engaged?
Well, first of all, just before our emails are inundated and we get a lot of new volunteers, I'd love to hear from Christian's perspective, maybe
Yeah.
to level set for everyone, just what kind of time commitment this is, and if you were a new volunteer with us, what you might expect in terms of total commitment.
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. Like I said, it is definitely a significant commitment in the fourth quarter of the calendar year. Most events, I would say, occur sometime between the week after Thanksgiving and maybe mid-December. Would you say that's accurate, Alex?
Yeah.
So really, once September, October hits, you've got to start planning. And even before then, Alex and I catch up over the summer, get a sense of what we're looking at from a numbers perspective and demand and need for that year. So I'm engaging with Shepherd Pratt, especially in the second half of the year. And then again, like I said, into January and February, just trying to get feedback and understand where we can improve.
Yeah.
So it is, I wouldn't call it a year-round commitment, but there is attention that's required for most of the year if you really want to make sure that you're covering all your bases and being very thorough and doing it right. I think additionally, not just the logistical piece and coordinating deliveries and accepting materials and making sure that you have enough volunteers to haul trees, tie trees to cars. A larger event like the one that we put on requires a lot more volunteerism, and Shepherd Pratt has been fantastic for that because they open up their volunteer network. So it's not just Christmas Tree Santas locally in Maryland trying to bring volunteers. Their volunteer network is expansive. So I think that if you identify the right partner locally, you can scale your efforts pretty quickly. In some cases, it's multiple partners. It doesn't have to be just one, to Alex's point, in terms of some of the events that he's put on since the organization's inception. So it is a considerable time commitment. So you got to be passionate about it, like anything, if you're going to spend the time doing it. And you have to make sure you've got a good team with you because it is a lot of, heavy lifting, both physically and metaphorically. But like I said, we love it. And I think that the biggest eye opener for us and doing this locally is that, I grew up about 15 minutes from the office of where Shepherd Pratt is located and where we have the event each year. And these are families that live very close to where I grew up, neighborhoods I drove by every single day. Our first year, we actually delivered some of the trees directly to families, which is something that we wanted to do on a longer term basis, but quickly realized that was pretty difficult to scale. Yeah. But I'm so glad we did that because to be welcomed into the homes of some of these families that we were serving and just to see how the tree and the act of that giving brightened their day and their season. Of course, we still see it now, but like I said, to be walking through the neighborhoods that I'm driving by and driving through as a kid all the time was really impactful for me. So I would just think about that to anybody out there that is interested in volunteering, that, these are your neighbors who you're serving. And it is a time commitment, but it's well worth it. And we'd love to connect if you want to talk any more or learn any more about the organization and the mission. So I hope that was helpful, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll echo that as well. I'm involved in several of our local giveaways, but I'm also on the front end of all of the inbound messages from people who want Christmas trees, and we can't serve all of them oftentimes because they're not in our service area. But locally, you just get known as the person who gives away trees. So a school nurse will contact me, an agency will contact me, and you're right, Christian. You give them out and you talk to people, but it's you're busy. When you have the opportunity to take a tree to someone and meet them where they are and understand their unique circumstances and really spend time with them, it's very different and gives you a different perspective on just what we're doing and how important it is.
For sure.
I got to take a tree this year out to a family, again in a neighborhood very close to me, but that I wouldn't normally even see or pay attention to, and it was off the beaten path and led up to a series of trailers in a pretty rundown trailer park, and to meet this father and his children who weren't even expecting me. The school had asked me to go out and take this family a Christmas tree. Um, was just very reaffirming for me in a lot of different ways. But the father greeted me and he's like, "How did you know? Who are you? Where did this come from?" And I was just, I couldn't think of anything to say. And I was just on the verge of tears. And I just kept saying, "Santa told me you needed a Christmas tree."
Yeah.
and
It's awesome.
and his kids hustled out and they were so excited. And, um, again, just having that personal experience and connection to our clients and understanding and who they are and how important this is to them just reaffirms for me the special nature of our seasonal mission, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think we've covered everything. We've talked about the history, the whys behind you all being engaged, future growth plans, how people can get engaged. Obviously, time commitment, that's an asterisk that we want to call out, because the worst case is somebody volunteers and you send them 100 trees and they only give away 10 of them, right? Because those 90 trees could have gone somewhere else. So
yeah. Yep.
Planning, it takes a lot.
Yeah, I'll add, we get a lot of people who just can't engage at the level that I engage or that Christian can engage. If we're doing an event locally, they're great kind of just, 2-hour or 3-hour volunteer opportunities at many of our sites. And we're glad to connect people to those volunteer opportunities. The other simple thing that many people do all across the country is just donate a tree. You can come onto our website, make a donation, and $30 will buy a Christmas tree for a family. So even if you're not in one of our geographic locations, we have donors from all over the country who just make this part of their annual charitable giving and Christmas giving. They know that they're buying a Christmas tree for a family who needs it, and it makes them feel good, and it certainly helps our organization, for sure.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up, is there anything that maybe we missed that you want to share, both of you, or anything that you want to leave us with as we close the episode?
I will say I'm really looking forward. I know, Christian, you have a growing and young family. All my children are adults now, but when I started this, they were 10, 11 years old. And so to grow up, with this as part of their Christmas season every year, had an enormous impact on us as a family and on them as individuals. And it was a very important part of their lives, and still is. But so I'm looking forward to that for you, Christian, your ability to demonstrate and live your values through your young family, and to show your children what that means, that as you do in all your walks of life, I think is going to be really important and meaningful for you. And I hope you get as much joy and value out of it as I did with my children and my family.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And I think, to your point, it is such a privilege to have this opportunity to do it now with, I've always done this with my wife and 2 brothers, but now with our son is really special. And I think, just wanted to say to all those who are listening out there to the podcast, to always encourage you to find ways to give back. And I think that's the point of Joseph's organization and his mission, right? Is that it doesn't matter how big, we talk about the time commitment with being a local lead volunteer for our organization. But as long as you're doing something, then that's what matters, right? And you're setting the example for others around you that every little bit goes a long way. We have so many folks that help us, throughout our efforts, and we couldn't pull it off without every single person that's involved, regardless of their commitment, time, treasure, or otherwise. So I appreciate you sharing that, Alex. And our son will be a little over 1 next year, so we're going to put him right to work. He's going to be tying trees with me, so I know he's excited.
Awesome. Well, Alex, Christian, thank you so much for your time and the work that you all are doing. It's amazing, and it's something that I had not heard of before hearing more about this organization. So I'm assuming there are other people that have not heard of this service and that you all are providing for people that need it. So thank you all for the work you do, and we're honored to share your story. And thanks again for your time.
Thank you. A joy.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joseph. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you know of a great organization or individual leaving a positive impact, we'd love to tell their story. Check us out and contact us at gtzp.org. Don't forget, for more stories like this, you could also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Instagram followers, our link trees in the bio. And for podcast listeners, we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.